There's muscular coordination and there's what you call intermuscular coordination. And the more advanced the lifter is, the more when Ed squats or he pulls, everything's firing at one time. Just, where you take an intermediate or beginner, they pull and it starts with the lats and then the hamstrings and then, it's just like a fucking mess that gets the bar to the top until it becomes synchronized. All right, that nervous system is part of that whole process. So you can take a guy who, say when Ed was squatting close to a grand, say do 800 for as many reps as you could, maybe 10, 15, and then he just quits because he can't breathe. Now
something's going to give.
Yeah, say that's 80%. I can take somebody who squats 100 pounds, put 80 pounds on the bar, and they do it for 50 fucking reps. It's just a completely...
The toll on the body, inside and out.
So that's another thing that you have to watch is the more experienced and more advanced the lifter is, the more you have to look at how that work capacity and how that workload is drilling them, where they can work up to a heavy single and be puking in the back parking lot, where a high school kid, works up to a heavy, they can train all day.
Going.
And it's not because the high school kid's in better shape, they're not recruiting at the same rate that the advanced lifter is. Well, that plays into the accessory work, how long the training cycle is going to go, how long the recovery after the meet's going to be, all those things. And it's tough.
That's when it becomes, when a trainer or routine has to be individualized, how everybody is fucking different.
It's an art. It really does. It becomes an art. There's science to it, there's no doubt, but it's an art when you start getting to these different levels.
Some guys are good at reps, some guys are good at heavy, so the percentages are always going to be a little different to get there. A couple percent is a big difference.
So since everyone, since it's an art and everyone is experiencing it differently, like I'll look at, like I'm doing Rest 2.0 training program and there's an option for, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. How do you decide for yourself? Obviously, work, time, whatever, but how do you decide if, you want to do the 3, the 4, the 5? Is there a difference in how you're going to increase strength?
Almost by doing it. I've tried 5 and it was okay, but one of those days was just a little baby day. 4 was always the best, but I know guys who became world champions off 3 days. I know a guy that did 2 days that was a multi-world champion. So it's, can you handle it? Do you have the time?
And I think whatever you can be most consistent at, because it's over the long term that it really adds up. So if you can do 4 days for 5 weeks and then you're 3 weeks off because you're only doing 2 days, but if it was 3 days, you could have hit that whole time period, you can make it work. And, to go off what he said, I know guys that have trained once a week. I know a whole club in Cleveland that made their whole training program out of just doing all 3 lifts on one day. And then maybe they go in and do some shitty stuff on a Wednesday.
That's the old guys.
Yeah. It was a long Saturday, but it was...
Yeah. It was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So pretty much, there's so many different routines that have gotten people there. It's technique, training load, pretty much it.
I think what if there's from a program standpoint, if there's a takeaway that I can pass on, you guys need to understand that, like Ed said, there's a lot of different training programs that work. All those training programs were created by one person that found the best way for that to work. So you need to all be creating your own training program that's going to work best for you. All right, and then you're going to siphon advice from other people who have been where you want to go and can offer advice, but you have to know what their bias is. So if you're speaking to somebody that their bias is 100% conjugate training, you need to understand that's where their bias is coming from. Otherwise, I don't want to say you're going to fall for their bullshit, because I don't think it's bullshit, but there's people who they believe very, very strongly.
It's just where they're coming from, what they learn.
It's everything that they know. It's what they believe in. It's what they've worked to be able to get to work the best way they can. But there's also people that have block programs and like Ashiko and all these other programs that they also feel that way too. So when you're following those people, you got to understand there's a bias here. What can I use? What works? What doesn't work? and then start to begin to slowly put together your own training philosophy. Because at the end of the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain point in time where an advanced lifter will hit a phase and then it pops. And then they go up to the next level. All right, when that pop happens is when they finally figured out to start auto-regulating their own training based upon how they feel. So there'll be a time when you're driving to the gym, and let's say it's, a squat day. And just on the way to the gym, you've already made 3 or 4 decisions about what you're gonna do because work or your back's fucked up or whatever it is. Then you start warming up, you're like, oh shit. So you've made another decision. Then as you're warming up, there's 5. By the time you actually get to your top set, if it's an advanced lifter, they've already made 15 or 20 different decisions on what they're gonna do to proceed forward. Where the person that's just got the program on a piece of paper is only gonna do what's on that piece of paper. So say he goes into the gym in his prime and the bar or 135 or whatever he starts with doesn't feel right. He doesn't go to 2 1/4, he does 135 again. And he does it again. The paper didn't say that, but he knows I'm not ready to go up until this shit gets loose or maybe breaks off and stretches and so forth. When you start to figure that out, that's again where this art comes in. But I can always tell when a lifter figures that out because they're doing good, and it's like, boom, what the fuck just happened? Then you talk to them like, you know what, fuck it, I quit listening to these people. And just start doing what works for me.
You have to be comfortable with what you're doing in your own brain that gets you going. But it has to be attainable.
Now to get there, are you gonna have to follow other people's programs? Of course, because that's really the only way that you're gonna learn.
It'll be based on other people's programs, and then you learn from that, and then you develop your own program, which is how you individualize it. That's how you do the same with technique. The same thing. They took these MRIs. I'm the one that gave Stefan Watterson the information for that, how to squat.
Yes.
Is they took all these MRIs of guys' hips, and then these guys were all built similar, but all the angles of their hips on the inside were different. Well, now that determines how wide you go, how close you go, whether it's high bar, low bar, whether you use heels or flats. That's individualized. You wouldn't know it by looking at them. Most people just put you in that group and that's it. Oh, fuck, no, you're set. This is what you have to do. No, it's not. It has to feel natural for your body to be able to do it, or else you won't be able to do it. Your body won't accept it. Your mind won't accept it, and you'll be screwed.
Yeah, you can't force somebody into a technique their body doesn't work on. So when I was taking you guys through, that's why I was saying on the squat, I watched the barbell on the way up. All right, sometimes you got to change the stance to be able to get the barbell to go in a straight line. Sometimes you don't. If it's going in a straight, Goggins had a very unique way of squatting compared to everybody else, but that bar came in a straight line on the way up. So you're not going to change that because you try to put him out wide to shorten the bar distance, his squat's going to go to hell, because of the bone structure that he has. So a good coach has been making these corrections for years and years and years without knowing the bone structure, just by watching the barbells or watching the elbows and watching the technique and saying, you know what, try this, try that, and kind of moving it around that way.